Hi everybody, my name is Daniel Gilbert. Welcome to JamPlay. And what I'd like to work with you today is probably one of the most important things that you can possibly know, and that is how to learn effectively, specifically on the guitar. Now, I found in my many years of teaching that this is a source of great frustration for a lot of people, and here's how the story goes. You run down to the music store and you buy a new book or a video and you can't wait, you bring it home and you slap it open and you look down at the first measure, and the first measure has 80,000 notes in it. And so you just start playing. Oh wait, no. Wait, no, F. Right? And then it's off to other things, Twitter, Facebook, things like that. And it's really bad because a funny little message gets sent when something like that happens. And it's, I'm no good. I couldn't do it. And really the way to learn this piece of information is so simple yet so powerful. And you'll see that in a second. And the way that you do it is by visualizing. Now, visualizing means that you play something in your mind first before you play it physically. Very simple idea, very simple concept. As with most things in life, some of the most simple things are the most effective and powerful. So I have a phrase that I want you guys to learn. And well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and play the phrase for you. And it sounds like this. 2, 3, 4. Really kind of simple little E blues lick down there in open position, but it's got a couple of things to it. And I'm going to show you exactly how to learn that. So if you're looking at the lick now, you can see that the whole phrase is all triplets and with 1/4 note at the end. So one of the first things you want to understand is the rhythm of the phrase that you're about to play. So I chose a particularly sort of simple figure just as a starting point. So this is all triplets with 1/4 notes. So it would be da 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 da. Pretty easy rhythm. Now the way that we bring visualization into this is this way. You break down the example into its small little components. So this example is about 1.5 measures long. And what you do is you look at only the first 2 beats. So as I have it on your example there, example B is just looking at the first 2 beats of the entire line. And what you do is you give yourself a certain amount of time, which we call a time frame. And let's say it's a minute. So you take a minute, and in that time, in your brain, you are telling your fingers their assignments. Everything about that piece of information, you are telling your fingers. You are not physically playing it. So you can actually, the dialogue that's going on in your head is something like, oh, second finger, you're on the 3rd string at the B note there on the 4th fret. And then you very quietly go ahead and you do that to each of the notes in the small example that you're trying to learn. Remember, we broke it down in 1 minute, you're just looking at the first 2 beats. Now everything is there for you, the picking, the fingering, you have the tablature, what fret everything is at. And for 1 minute, you just concentrate on that. Now, after that minute is up, then you play the example super, super, super slowly. So slowly that you can't help but get it right. Now, here's our metronome. And I'm just going to play 1 note per click. So you could actually even go slower than that for the first time that you play the information. And the idea is the first time you play that piece of information, it has to be perfect. That's why you take a very small bit of information and you give yourself enough time to visualize it fully. So now that you visualize that, now you look at beats 3 and 4 and you give yourself a minute to visualize those. Again, all the information is down there on the page. And so you give yourself a minute, and actually you would have a timer, and you really time yourself. And this is a really great thing because it focuses your brain to be really detail-oriented for a certain amount of time. You take out all the other stimuli that's coming in. So now take a minute and look at example C on Learning Techniques page and visualize playing those 6 tones. Everything about it, you look at the fingering, you look at the picking, but you don't physically play it yet. Now after that minute is up, now you get on your metronome and you play those notes really slowly. 2, 3, 4. Again, 3, 2, 3, 4. Actually, I played that pretty quickly. I wanted you to do one note per click first, so it would be like this. 3, 4. That slowly, everybody. Now that you have the second chunk of the example, now you look at putting the first two chunks together. So you take another minute and you visualize playing the first 4 triplets. And we can pick up the tempo a little bit. And now after that minute of visualizing, now you play the first measure. I'm going to go ahead and play one note per click. 2, 3, 4. And now you have the first measure. So you see the science of it? Now, you have to keep in mind that when you visualize, you're actually tired. It actually feels like you did something. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now you look down at the next example. Letter D played the first measure. Let's go back and see if we can play that in triplets now, which would be 3 notes per beat. I slowed it down a little bit. Triplets at this tempo are scabula, scabula, scabula. So I use that little mnemonic device to help tell me how fast that's going to be. Ja-da-da, ja-da-da, ja-da-da. So now you play the whole first measure. Here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we look at the second measure, and I think the second measure we can do all the entire second measure in one chunk. So take a minute, and you're going to do 2 triplets and a quarter note. Now again, in this time, really clear out all other information in your brain, and you're only focusing in for 1 minute on that piece of information. So take a look down at there, and again, you're telling your fingers what string, what finger you're going to be on. And you're with your timer. Now after that minute, again, let's go back, and now you're going to play 1 note per click. 2, 3, 4. Now it's funny, everything about that little piece of information you begin to notice, and you see that, oh, there's a leap there from the 6th string up to the 4th string. Ah, okay, pulling off on those lower strings perhaps takes a little bit more energy. So now I'll go ahead and play it again, and I'll do it in triplets. And at this tempo, triplet, triplet, or as I like to say, scabula, scabula. So here's the second measure in triplets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again. Okay. Now you go back and you take a minute and you visualize the entire example. Now that you've learned the entire phrase and learned it correctly, you would move on to what I call stage 2. So stage 1 is visualizing the piece of information, breaking it down into bits, giving a time frame, which is a certain amount of time to visualize each piece of information, and then putting the whole lick together like that. Now stage 2 is what I call going to the gym. Going to the gym is what it sounds like. You have to get repetitions of these things and on the metronome to build stamina and build a continuity of the phrase together. So now you go to the gym. Here's the lick at 85. 1, 2, 3, and... Okay, seems okay there. I'm going to jump up to 100. 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's at 100. Let's see what happens at 125. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's see what happens at 145. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I had a little flub at the beginning of that one, so I'm going to back the tempo up a little bit. That was 145. I'll go to 140. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, seems pretty clean at that tempo. I would probably leave it at that tempo for 3, 4, 5 days, maybe a week, and then move it up. Now, I did that example on purpose because I could sit here and keep on turning up the metronome, and you could see at some point I would not be able to play that example, and that's okay. So now I'm going to bring the tempo back to a little before where I crashed and kind of work with it at that speed there. So now the 3 stages, once you have visualized the information, visualizing is stage 1, going to the gym is stage 2, and then stage 3 is application. Where can I use that piece of information? I can't emphasize how important visualizing is. Playing something in your mind first before you play it physically helps you program less mistakes. Have you ever learned a song wrong? I really hate that. Because even after you've fixed the mistake, when you're playing that song and you get to that one place, a microsecond before it, you're still wondering, was it a C sharp? Was it a C? Sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not, right? And when you visualize information, that doesn't happen as much. I believe that visualization takes the information to sort of a deeper place in the mind. Okay? So when you visualize the information first, you make way less mistakes and you program the song in correctly. I can't emphasize enough how important it is and how much time you will save by doing things like this. Now, I know it probably seems you're sitting there, and I referred to, the first lick had 80,000 notes, and that if you were learning information like this, it would take a really, really long time. But the funny thing is that it really doesn't, because you'll see where we learned 6 notes in a minute, the more familiar you get with your guitar and the layout of everything, you can start to learn 15 notes in a minute. You just start to see them very quickly. This also increases your mental focus as you're looking down at that piece of information, really looking at everything about it. What string is it on? What finger do I use? How is it picked? So be very, very careful when you're visualizing. And it's really important that you give yourself that time frame, which means 1 minute, and you actually have a timer so you stop yourself. And you get your brain very used to being extremely focused in small amount of time and programming in the information. Now, one of my favorite sayings is this: see it, feel it, touch it, taste it, hear it. Everything about that piece of information, get it down to your mind first, and your fingers will follow. Usually I do it much faster than that. See, feel, touch, taste, hear, everything about the piece of information, get it down to your mind first, your fingers will follow. You don't have to do it that fast. But it does kind of remind you, hey, don't start doing this. Whoops. Look first, figure out exactly what it is that you're going to play. Let your brain tell the fingers their assignments, play it deadly slowly, and then you move on to the other stages. Stage 2, going to the gym. Stage 3, application. This is a kind of lesson that I believe you can look at again and again to remind yourself of the process for taking in new information on the guitar. Thanks very much. I'll see you soon.